Hi everyone, my name is Tori, this is Novel Life, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a book series review, which is something that I actually want to start doing more in 2023. And today I have the Zodiac Academy series to review. So I basically took the last week and a half, 2 weeks of 2022, and I binged 7 of the 8 books in the Zodiac Academy series. And I know so many people who love this book, like TikTok, Book Talk has taken Zodiac Academy and blew it up. Like, these books have been publishing for, I think, since 2019, maybe. And all of a sudden, I just have never heard of them. And then in 2022, that's when I heard of them. So my friend Sam from Sam Reads a Little started reading this series, and she thought it was a fun time, and she was enjoying it. And I thought, okay, I'm interested. Well, then my other friend, Jess at Peace Love Books, she started reading it, and she did not like the first book. So I thought, okay, let me lower my expectations. I've heard it's a good time. It's more YA, like I say YA, it's more new adult. They're 18 years old. They just turned 18 years old, the 2 main female characters. And I thought, why not give it a try? And I was a little obsessed. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why people are so obsessed with Zodiac Academy. So I'm just going to go through kind of like the basic overview of what the books are about. Then I'll break down pros and cons of the series, and then I'll tell you my ratings of the books. So let's just go ahead and jump in. So the basic overview of this series is we follow 2 women. Their names are Tori and Darcy. Tori with a Y, not Tori with an I. I'm with an I. Her name's with a Y. Just thought I'd throw it out there. They are in the human world, and they are struggling. They are bounced around from foster home to foster home, and when they turn 18, they're finally kicked out of their last one. They're just trying to make it. They're in this really small apartment, don't even have a bed. They sleep on the sofa together. Tori steals motorcycles, and she gets money for them, and Darcy's just doing what she can. And we see at the beginning of the first book, Orion, who is a professor at the Zodiac Academy, he comes from the Fae world to the human world, takes them and is like, hey, you are princesses. You're the long-lost princesses of Solara, and it's your time to come to the Zodiac Academy and come into your power. And they're like, what? Like, what is happening? So basically, they go to the Zodiac Academy. They find out they have 4 elements in them. So you can have different magic. So it's like fire magic, earth magic, air magic, and water magic, just like the basic elements. And not everyone holds every element. They just so happen to hold all 4, which I think has never happened. So everyone's like, oh my God, they're the true princesses. They're going to rule, blah, blah, blah. Well, come to find out, they have the ruling heirs that are sophomores at the Zodiac Academy, and they're families. It's 4 heirs: Darius, Seth, Caleb, and Max. They are heirs to their families, and their parents are on the council. So after Tori and Darcy's real parents in the Fae world died, the council kind of took over because they were king and queen. There's a lot of like political stuff. There's a lot of with the magic system, stuff like that. And basically, in the first book, they really are just figuring out their magic, figuring out what they're doing, figuring out why they're there, because all they care about is getting their inheritance when they graduate and getting their money. That's all they want. They don't care about who's ruling, who the heirs are, blah, 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 blah. Basically, in the first couple of books, first 2 or 3 books, there's a lot of bullying from the heirs. I'm not going to lie. They bully these girls hardcore, but these girls do not take their shit. I will say that. So that's the basic overview. You have the human world, the Fae world, as like the 2 worlds. So they go into the Fae world, but they can go into the human world. Zodiac Academy is like where they're staying. They pick a house to go into after if they have like all 4 elements, elemental magic, I guess you can say, they can pick a house to go in. So Tori goes into whatever the fire is. I forgot what it's called. There's certain words for it. And Darcy, she goes into, I think, the air. And of course, each of the heirs rule one of the elemental magic, even though I think all of them have 2 elements. So you also have something called their order, which is like they can turn into something. So like, for example, Darius, he really uses fire magic a lot more of the time, and he can like transform into a dragon. Seth can transform into a wolf. Caleb, he's a vampire, so he doesn't really transform into anything. He just has that vampire instinct. And I don't think Max does. Max has he's a siren, so he can do emotions and stuff like that. So they all have an order. You don't know what Tori and Darcy's order is until later on in the books. I don't want to say because that's a spoiler. So basically, that's just the overview of the books. Like I said, there's 8 books out. There's supposed to be 9 books. The 9th book is not out yet. They do have some spin-offs, you can read the first book from the boys' perspective, so the heirs' perspective. I have not read that. There's a lot of characters that are introduced in the first book. There's a lot that happens. So now I'm going to go through each book and my rating before I go into the pros and cons, because I think that kind of ties into why I didn't finish out the series, and I'm going to tell you why. So the first book is called The Awakening, which is clearly what it says. The Awakening, they are awakened to their powers. I gave this book 4 stars. This is the shortest book in the series. The next book, book 2, is Ruthless Fae. And I gave this book 4 stars. I thought that this was a good second introduction book. You get to see more of how Zodiac Academy works, a little bit more of the characters, the dynamics of the academy with the professors and who's ruling. You get to see more of the council a little bit. A lot more bullying in this book. A lot more bullying. Book 3 is The Reckoning, which is something that they go through. Every person goes through once they their first year. Basically, they're training their powers, and the reckoning is they go through a trial for each of their elements. So if you have 2 elements, you only have to go through 2 of those trials. And once you get past that, that's called the reckoning. If you pass everything. If not, you're taken out of Zodiac Academy and you fail and you don't get to go there anymore. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I thought this one was pretty interesting. It kept my attention. The ending is what bumped it up to a 4.5 star for me, which I cannot say what the ending was because it'll be a spoiler. Book 4 is called The Shadow Princess, and I gave this one 4.5 stars. This one is the only book in the series that kind of had me in tears at the end of the book, because both of these characters, Tori and Darcy, go through a lot, but also they develop these romantic relationships, I will say, throughout the series. And it's fun. It's a great time. And I got connected to some of the characters and a certain couple, and it had me in tears. That's all I'm going to say. Book 5 is called Cursed Fates, and I gave this 4 stars. This one was a little bit slower at the beginning, but it was totally fine. I still liked it. I still liked where the plot. There's a lot of pining from a certain character, and this whole series has an overarching plot, which I can't say what it is, but it involves who Tori and Darcy is, who's going to take the throne. The heirs are Tori and Darcy, the Vega twins, I guess you can say. Book 6 is called Fated Throne, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. This is how big is this one? This one is 900 pages, I think. Yeah, this one was 900 pages. It was extremely slow. There was a lot of filler in this book. The overarching plot thickens towards the end of the book, the last 200 pages. And that's really what kept me going into the 7th book. But the 7th book is called Heartless Sky, and I gave this 3.5 stars. This is another book. This is about 750 pages. It is a lot of filler. A lot of filler. A lot more characters are introduced in this book, as in the heirs' siblings. So they're younger siblings who we've heard that are mentioned, but they really get points of views in this book. And we're introduced to what they're doing, what's going on in their lives, what's going on in the Zodiac Academy, more of the heirs and their families and this and that, and just more of the plot. I can't really say anything, but the last book is called Sorrow and Starlight, and that literally just came out in December. And because the last 2 books combined had almost 2,000 pages in it, Book 8 has 1,244 pages. That's the Kindle version, because they're all in Kindle Unlimited. I decided that I was not going to read this book as of right now. Will I continue? Yes, but the last 2 books were so much filler, and it does all of them end on a cliffhanger, but I didn't pick up the next one. I just didn't feel like we've had enough cliffhangers, and a lot of stuff happens to these characters, all of the characters, and I'm just okay, what else can happen to these characters? And I have to read another 1,200 pages to figure out to another cliffhanger, and I didn't feel like doing that, so I paused. Will I ever go back to it? Probably when the 9th book comes out. Whenever the 9th book comes out, I'll read the 8th book, but I was not in the mood to pick up the 8th book when I finished the 7th book. So for the pros and cons of this, I'm going to start with the pros, because I feel like they're pretty even, but I think this is going to differ on how you are as a reader and what you prefer in books. The pros of this book, as a fantasy romance, the first book usually has typically in fantasy romances, there's a lot of info dumping. It is, you are thrown into this world and the author will just dump all this information about how it works, who this is, blah, 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 blah. The only good thing about this book is because the female characters, Tori and Darcy, don't really know anything about this world. Neither do you, because you usually get their point of view in the first book a lot. You are learning as they learn. So it's very digestible and very easy. So I do understand why people who don't really read fantasy romances picked up this series and loved it, because the first couple of books really draw you in. It's very easy to understand the world and what's going on. So that's definitely a big pro, which is something I appreciate because sometimes info dumpy, you have to really focus on fantasy romances, and I just wanted something fun, which leads me to another pro. This is a fun series. The characters are extremely addicting. The banter between the characters are funny enough that it's like serious, but not like, it gives me all the things I love in a dark romance where the characters bully the other character, like the main male characters, in this case, the heirs bully Tori and Darcy a lot, but also you see them like, I think by book 3, you start to see them like kind of back off a little bit, like, okay, do we really keep up with this? Like, what are we doing? And I really, really enjoyed that. And it's just, it is very steamy in the later books. I want to say by book 3, it gets a lot steamier, but I appreciate that the authors didn't just jump in with books 1 and 2 with a lot of steam, because I feel like that wouldn't have really made sense. I really enjoyed that and how fun it was. And it was enjoyable to read. I found myself laughing out loud. Like, I listened to some of the books, like while I was at the gym, like on the treadmill or working out, and I had to pause and like keep my laughter in because I would look like such a crazy person laughing at these books while I was reading them at the gym, like trying to work out and like be serious. You know what I mean? There are actually a lot of emotional scenes. While this is fun, it also has some emotion to it, and there is some character growth, which is a pro and a con. There are some character growth, but I'm going to put that in the con because I'll talk about that in a second. There are book boyfriends. I have so many book boyfriends. Darius, such a book boyfriend. I love him so much. He is my favorite character. Favorite character of all the books that I've read so far. Favorite will always be favorite. I love him. He's such a tortured hero, morally gray character, and that's what I love. So of course I gravitate towards him. But there are so many book boyfriends to choose from, and everyone's gonna have someone different. Everyone's gonna love someone different for different reasons. And the last pro that I have, like I said, it's very addicting, very easy reading and writing. So while these books are huge, they are very easy reads. You don't have to, I wouldn't say you don't have to focus, because you do, but it's not like the writing is very intricate and detailed and you have to like look for clues in this and that. It's a very simplistic writing, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, depending on the person you are. For the cons, the writing is not the best going off of that. It's not perfect. It's not a perfect fantasy romance. There's a reason why this is not traditionally published, why it's indie published, but I think that the authors do a pretty good job. There's no like major grammatical errors or anything like that. It's just writing. They're also a duo. This is by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti, I think her name is. So they co-write, and sometimes co-writing a book, you can overlap on some things and kind of repeat yourself a couple times. That just happens too. Another con, the later books are extremely long. Books 1 and 2 are the shortest. I want to say book 1 is about 300 pages or less. I could be totally wrong because I read them on Kindle Unlimited. Book 2, a little bit longer. Book 3 is about 450 pages, which is usually for a fantasy romance. That's solid. That's good. Books 4, 5, 6, 7, they just get thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker. I've seen like TikToks of the physical books, and they're ginormous. And that goes into another con where some of the books are filler. So as the series started picking up steam from a lot of people, I feel like they're just expanding it. And this is another reason why I stopped at book 8. 5, 6, and 7 had a decent amount of filler. 5 had like a quarter filler. And I was like, okay, I can get through this. Like, it's the middle of the series, technically, if there's going to be 9 books. I get it. You're going to have some filler. Book 6 and 7, over half the book was filler. And I say filler as in it didn't hook me the way that the other books in the series did, which is why my rating dropped so much. There does not need to be that much filler. I feel like the authors are dragging out what's happening in the plot. They could have ended it by book 6. Book 6, they could have wrapped up things, maybe give it a book 7 to wrap up things, but they keep dragging. Like, how many more things do these characters need to go through before they just like give up? Because I would have given up like in book 3 with everything that they go through. There was a lot of characters, like I said. Book 7, we really get multiple point of views. I want to say at one point we have 7, 8, 9 or 10 different characters. You're switching back, maybe 11, 12 point of views that you're switching back and forth, which makes sense of why the books are so long. But do we really need those characters? Do we really need to know what these characters are thinking in this scene from this point of view and that scene from this point of view? Like, do we really need that? Do we really? You know what I mean? So that kind of goes back to the writing and stuff like that. A lot of characters, a lot of point of views. And then I will say the main thing with this series, it takes about 3 books to really get into it and feel obsessed with the characters, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but not everyone's going to commit to 3 books like that to continue on with the series. And it's a 9-book series and it's unfinished. That deters people. So I will say that overall, I would recommend this series if you are someone who wants something fun, if you are not a big fantasy romance reader, if you want something to just pass the time, easy put down, pick up reads, I would suggest it. It's also in Kindle Unlimited, so if you have the Kindle Unlimited subscription, you can read it. All the books are in there. You also can buy the paperbacks if you want to. There's also audiobooks for every book except book 8. But with all that being said, I did not continue the series just because I did not care enough. There was too much going on, too much damage that has happened to these characters. Like for me, I've had enough damage. I've seen these characters go through a lot that I'm like, okay, I need to take a break. Like I said, I'd probably go back. But if you're someone who's kept up with this series and as the books release, I see why you're obsessed with it. Do I think that this is the greatest fantasy romance out there? No. But it's fun. And it's sometimes that's just what you want in a romance book or a romance fantasy book or any book that you read. You just want a good time. And sometimes that's okay. It doesn't need to be the most magnificent and perfect book in the world for you to have a good time and enjoy the read. So with all that being said, I would recommend it if it sounds good to you, if it's something that you just want, I wouldn't say a palate cleanser, but just something to have a good time with. So that is all of my thoughts on the Zodiac Academy series and why I think people are so obsessed with it because of all of those things. The pros, definitely. Very much TikTok material. But I really hope you enjoyed this first series review of 2023. Let me know a series you would like me to read and do another video for. Thank you so much for watching. The emoji that I want you to leave in the comments down below is a dragon emoji because I love Darius so much in this series and he's the dragon. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content from me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.